Hey kids, Alec here with the Frog Brothers Podcast, reminding you to check out our YouTube where we have exclusive mail-time videos featuring collectibles, toys, comics, VHS, rare DVDs, shirts, pins, and more. Be sure to hit subscribe. Hit us up on Facebook and Instagram to see live unboxing videos and daily updates. You can find all of our podcast episodes up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and most places where podcasts are available. Keep an eye out for merchandise in the future. And remember, second shelf is mine. That's where I keep my root beers and double thick Oreo cookies. Nobody touches the second shelf but me.
Cry, little sister. Come to your brother. Yeah. Take me, sister. Love is with Frog Brothers.
It's refreshment time, folks.
I have to return some videotapes.
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Do you like scary movies, Sydney?
You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. Don't need a TV.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.
Over 1,600 titles, each for rent at just $2 the first night, and only...
I don't watch TV.
Yeah, but you are aware that there's an invention called television, and on this invention they show shows, right?
Tonight on 6 Ed World.
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and the Weather Channel.
Welcome to the Frog Brothers Podcast with your hosts, Justin and Alec.
Hello, and welcome to episode COVID-19 of the Frog Brothers Podcast. We're here in our individual quarantines, self-isolation, or as introverts call their day-to-day life. And we're just hanging out downtown by ourselves, and I had so much time to sit and think about myself.
It's my favorite Nirvana song.
That's fucking heroic. We should start referring to that as a Nirvana song to see if anyone notices.
No, you know, it'd be sad because a lot of people do think it's a Nirvana song. Like, you remember, you probably don't remember this, but in the days of LimeWire back in the day, when people would do file share downloads, one of the things that was very common was shit mislabeled and labeled wrong. Like, you'd download some shit, and it would always be like, Sex and Candy, Nirvana. And you're like, wait a second.
That's actually Marcy Playground, and
Exactly.
I think they only ever put 2 albums out, and then they disappeared.
That was pretty much... I mean, they were relatively in the right era for that shit, but that doesn't even sound like Nirvana, so...
I had that album, I listened to it a lot. The Vampires in New York is a good song on there. I like that one.
Excuse me while I light this blunt a minute into our podcast.
1 minute in and he's lighting it up. He's gonna smoke it on down and fuck shit up, 'cause he's high. He's high tonight.
I'm so high as fuck.
He's so high tonight. He's high tonight.
You've been looking at new toys in the stores anytime you go?
Yeah, I'm looking for this Top Gun Maverick aircraft carrier. I've got some of the airplanes for the kids already, and this thing's got a catapult, and I really fucking want it. So
I'll keep an eye out.
I can find it. Yeah, it's only $20 too. So I'm like, hell yeah, $20 aircraft carrier.
That's pretty good. Does it come with any planes?
It's one. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but I've already got a couple of F-14 Tomcats and then some random plane that came. You know, it was like one of the individuals. So
yeah,
got to have the new stuff. You know, it's disappointing though is when people don't realize you're doing a Top Gun quote in life. You ever experienced that?
I don't quote Top Gun that much, so no.
Yeah, I know I always piss you off. You're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. When I'm like, yeehaw, Jester's dead.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're saying Chester.
Oh. Yeah. Get your butts below the hard deck.
Yeah, all I can think of is the fact that Goose is one of the nerds in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah. He's also a doctor on ER, a Michael Crichton vessel. My favorite other line to say from Top Gun is, any of you boys seen an aircraft carrier around here? Because Maverick says that to Goose when he goes to rescue him. He's trying to be funny and lighten up the situation, but Goose
shit.
is so shaken.
I just had a flashback.
Sweating. What's your flashback?
You know, we were talking about VHS tie-in commercials. We do this sometimes. And isn't there a dope-ass one where somebody opens up a Pepsi upside down and drinks it?
Yeah, they invert the Pepsi, and he's trying to put it so he pours it into a coffee mug because the thing won't come out of the cup holder. Hell yeah, it's vintage ads, man.
Well, it was just like, it reminds me because there's like a Diet Coke ad in Batman. There's a Pepsi ad in Casper.
All these cool vintage advertising that they used to do, like they'd shoot commercial tie-ins like while they're filming the movie or like use some of the same stuff from the sets. I'm highly disappointed they don't do that anymore because that's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, there's a way, it's they obviously have to pay a price. It's time to pay the piper, as Ivan Ooze would say.
Yes.
It's time to pay the piper.
The things that I have missed! The Spanish Inquisition! The Brady Bunch reunion! We got to talk about that sometime, but today I was... I finally did see those Godzilla versus Kong toys. They look pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, those look pretty good. I saw Jacob from Yes Have Some was able to track down quite a few of those.
Yeah. I saw them in my Walmart today, as well as a bunch of the Plasma series and a couple of the Kenners left. But I was looking for the Power Rangers like Legacy Morpher that they have out, but I did not find it.
So the NECA Super Shredder action figure went on sale today on the NECA store, and obviously there was another fiasco there of people not being able to order it, their website being fucked up.
Yep.
I had flashbacks to when I bought Dennis Nedry, and lucky for me, I wasn't buying this one, so... And then I saw some people like getting discouraged. They're like, I think I'm just going to sell all these NECA figures and just go with the vintage line from the movie-style figures from Playmates.
Huh.
And you're like, honestly, I can't blame anybody for that because, I mean, you could probably get a whole set of some of the vintage stuff for what you're paying for one of these brand new figures just because they're not being super consumer friendly with some of this stuff. And I get it, right? The retail landscape kind of sucks for toys right now. Walmart and Target have such limited space. You're doing some online sale specialties, but...
Yeah, shit is definitely fucked, but it's also great with toys right now. And that's the thing. There's epic amount of glorious, awesome shit coming out right now, new. Some of it
the quality
is a pain in the ass to find
toys,
and shit like that.
Yeah, the quality's all there. It's like everything you've ever wanted in a toy. Assuming you can fucking buy it anywhere.
Yeah, that's been my only issue. I still haven't seen any of the Walmart exclusive Gremlins or anything, or the Target exclusive ones.
Do you have the Olympic Gremlin?
Nope. I haven't been able to find it anywhere, so. And I'm not obviously trying to go out to the store all the damn time. No, I don't.
Yeah, I was getting some essentials for the kids. I needed some pillows and some other stuff for their rooms, so I popped into Walmart, and I did see one of those, but the box was so fucked up, it was like, looked like it had been banged up, and so I didn't even hit you up because it was like 8 in the morning. But it was the Olympic Gremlin, but the box is so bad I wouldn't have bought it, and even to try to flip it, it was just terrible condition.
Yeah.
Which is always sad. You're like, this is a brand new toy. Like, how the hell did this box get this fucked up already?
Yeah, it's pretty fucked. The NECA section at Target is always a fucking mess. Like, people go over there and take shit off of there constantly and just throw it back over there the whole time. So it's always just a wreck until you can tell, like, when the guy's been there because it looks all nice. And you're like, oh, he must have been here fucking 5 minutes ago.
Well, yeah, they're either overfilled or they're underfilled, right? So you get to the point where it's like everything's messed up because there's way too many. or you get so few of them on there, it's just not in good shape. I
did buy a brand new cassette recorder today, though. Walmart has cassette recorders and cassette tapes, blanks, available.
Nice.
In 2020.
I think I've got a 6 or 8 pack of brand new cassette tapes in my cassette collection in the garage.
So, worst case scenario, if I was you, I would pick up one of these because it works as a cassette player as well, and it's new.
Yeah, I'll probably have to do that.
The chances of it eating cassettes is low so far. I've already tried out listening one in it, and it has a headphone jack, so you can either listen to headphones or put it into something else. It also has an aux in, so you can do anything. It came with a little microphone also that has a microphone in too. So
that's pretty badass. So speaking of cassette tapes, that reminds me of something new here.
Yeah.
We are going to do the Frog Brothers Podcast mixtape collection. So what that means is that each of us will curate a mixtape, and fans can participate as well. If you can make a mixtape on that, we can just share the mixtapes around. You know, if you find something you really want to hang on to, you can do that, but it'll just be something we mail amongst the community out there. So just to try to expose you to some different things. You can do tape-to-tape transfers, you can do CD-to-tape transfers, you can do internet-to-tape transfers, but as long as you put it on a tape, I want that vintage feel of having a mixtape made with handwritten notes of who the song's artists are and curating that, right?
I've already started 2 lists of mixtapes I'm going to make. One's for Halloween, and the other's like a road trip soundtrack. So.
Oh, hell yeah. There you go.
So
if you want in on that, find us on social media and let us know that you're going to be in Project Mixtape.
So I bought that, and I bought some plastic dishes and a silverware set today for the new place.
Hells yeah, son. Getting all ready to move out.
A 88-cent cutting board and some more storage tubs.
88 cents? What do you expect to do with 88 cents?
So I did not buy any toys today because I couldn't find any, but I did buy some productive adult shit. And let me tell you, that's nowhere near as fun. Although the cassette recorder is pretty fun, but...
Yeah, the cassette recorder is pretty handy.
I did, however, order recently a PKE meter holster off of eBay. And recently, I don't think I mentioned it yet, and I didn't unbox it because it was kind of like, I'm not going to show it off till I have it at a new place, but I did get a Freddy Krueger standee. It's going to go pretty well in the new room when I get it set up.
Did you read that article that came out this last week about the Freddy Krueger concept prequel film?
Oh, God. Do I want to? I don't want a prequel.
Yeah, it was, what's his name? Saxon that just died? It was his concept for a prequel that he wrote, where he plays the detective still, or the cop, but he's a beat cop, he's a rookie. And it was his concept that Freddy's not actually guilty, that it was like some kind of like Charles Manson-style cult that was in town, and Freddy was actually a child psychologist, but they kill him on accident, so then he gets his revenge by becoming Freddy.
Interesting.
And at the end of the movie, you see Nancy basically... As a 5-year-old, basically seeing Freddy for the first time in her dreams. And it's Nancy's older sister that gets murdered in this one by this cult, but they blame it on him because, you know, obviously Fred Krueger, the child psychologist, is really big into it.
See,
it's actually kind of an interesting concept.
That would make a better mini-series, if you ask me. Like, just do 10 episodes on an internet streaming service for that. And I would only really also want it if you're going to have Robert Englund play him. Because he could look as old as he wants before you murder him. I don't care.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't need to matter. But, no, this is a concept he wrote after the first Nightmare came out. So it was like, don't think that's going to happen now, but it at least has the interesting intrigue of mixing, like, cults and, you know, like the wrongly accused becoming vengeful. So...
See, I really want them to do, at this point... Someone who needs to track down and negotiate a deal, where they can do their own sort of shared universe like they tried to do with Freddy versus Jason and stuff.
Yes.
You may as well at this point. As long as they... everybody's trying to do that, and it's the big in thing these days. There's a few people doing it right. Obviously Marvel. Obviously not DC. But, the Kaiju universe isn't doing too bad, in my opinion.
No.
I like those movies enough. Again, I'm not a Godzilla expert, but I like what they're doing with it. I would like to see a Universal Monsters universe, too, that isn't complete ass. That's really true to the original and takes place back in the day, not modern.
Yeah, but I think they're trying to do like a modern style, which
you can do that, but do it with Jason, Freddy, Pinhead, Chucky, Ash.
I just think the licensing rights is going to fuck that up way too much. But
well, exactly. That's my point. But I think somebody needs to negotiate that shit. Like,
they should.
They should at least.
Let me pitch you on a concept here real quick.
What's that?
Okay, so I got a concept. You ever seen the show Are You Afraid of the Dark, right? Where they go into individual horror stories, right?
Yeah. Just like Goosebumps.
I want this to be... Yes, I want this to be like a Netflix-style story, though, where the beginning of the story winds up being its own episode, right? So you take this concept of people telling stories, and they're all haunted by Jason because they're at camp, right? Jason Voorhees, right? How do you make Jason a fresh concept again? Well, you have them telling these stories where they don't even really realize where they're out camping out at this area in Crystal Lake, and they're telling these ghost stories. And then you hear these ghost stories about all these other characters that you like, and then you go into like a mini episode series, but the whole series is based around Jason killing off these kids here as they're ready to tell stories. And it could be a different group of kids each time, whatever that is, but it'd be kind of a fun way to bring Jason Voorhees in without like getting overly technical with his stuff and have him kill off these groups of characters that are telling stories at the beginning of a movie or an episode and back at the end of the episode, but also getting another horror story mixed in with each episode.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the original Friday the 13th series?
The TV series?
Yeah. I heard about it much? Because I'm pretty sure it's anthology style.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like that, that's something we need to visit some episodes of on here. Is that in the Freddy's show? So, need to get into that, though. But I think with Netflix and production the way it is now, I think you could do some really awesome horror stuff that is not necessarily feature-length films, but could also have the same acting crew into a feature-length and do some interesting stuff that way.
Yeah.
Right? Like Child's Play or Chucky, basically that whole series kind of went to direct-to-video market, which kind of sucks because, there's nothing like seeing a good slasher flick on the big screen.
To be honest, if I'm New Line Cinema, and I don't even know who owns them or if they exist anymore at this point, really. But last time I checked, they had Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, at least temporarily, to do Freddy vs. Jason. And there were teases of them. There was in a magazine, apparently, there was an ad. I heard a rumor of this, but I never saw it myself. I bet with the internet I could do research on it now, but it said supposedly it had a picture of, Pinhead, and it was an ad for Freddy versus Jason, and it said, bring us the winner or some shit, And I'm like, But I think, If you go with those kind of legends like Freddy and Jason and Pinhead, I think your best bet is to not go too far back, not to things like Texas Chainsaw. I don't think you'd want to include Leatherface. I don't think you need to. But I would say you would include Chucky. I don't know. It's just shit I would like to see, but I like the fact that even Freddy vs. Jason for me is nostalgic, but it's we'll have to actually cover that movie sometime because it's very interesting. I find it fascinating, and And as far as the plot goes, just describing the plot itself, you're like, that's, as far as combining those universes, that's probably that's a pretty decent plot they got going.
Yeah, no, when you watch that movie the first time, you're like, they didn't half-ass it like you thought. Like, when I first saw that, I was like, oh, they're not even going to have a story. They're just going to have these two fight. And then they kind of basically explain how Freddy needs Jason, and you're like, oh, okay. And then, like, they've been using this drug to suppress dreams. So, I mean, yeah, it's a very interesting concept for combining
that's
those two
what I like
universes.
about it, because Hypnosil is the same drug from Dream Warriors that they're using to suppress their dreams in that. It's the same drug from it. So when you put it in that context, you're like, wow, I like that they actually, you clearly can tell the writer did some research into the films and was like, how do I bring these together in a way that makes sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Underrated. I like it. How many
Definitely.
of the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movies are really good anyway? You watch them because they're entertaining, but that doesn't mean it's a quality flick necessarily. Everybody pretty much will agree that Nightmare, Nightmare 3, and New Nightmare, in that order, are the best Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, people, I think, tend to side with number 4 and 5, I think. So, it's not like all of them are good already. So I say, fuck it. Continue those movies. Make another Nightmare on Elm Street with Robert Englund. He's getting to the point where he's not going to be able to do it soon, so fucking just do one more. Put the makeup on him. Even you can give him a body double half the time when he's doing crazy stunts and shit. That's no big deal.
Fuck, as long as he can do the voiceover work, I don't give a fuck if it's somebody else playing him and copying his mannerisms. I mean, look, we've successfully transitioned Chewbacca to somebody else. Right? You can take an iconic character, and if you're in that kind of makeup and you can take those mannerisms, you can have
I still think
Robert
he's
Englund do the voice work.
Yeah, I still think, though, that he's young enough that he could do some of it, just not like the crazy stunt work. And I think that he would, too. He would love to.
Yeah, and I think that was his thoughts, right? I mean, we all saw him on the Goldbergs where he did it, and it was just fine, right? It looked good. But at the same time, like, I think the most action he really ever had was Freddy versus Jason, and that was kind of his send-off to his form of the character.
Yeah.
Which is superly disappointing because you're like, oh man, all the potential they had there and to do other stuff, but they just never really did anything with it.
Yeah,
because
getting into September and October, we're going to be doing lots of this horror movie retrospectives because,
Oh yeah, that's so there's a guy I know that was from a band in Omaha, and his name was Colby, and he'd always do his 31 days of Halloween, so he'd always be posting on Facebook about all the movies he was watching during the Halloween season and kind of put some information on there, and I'm like, that's genius.
Yeah, I've pretty much been doing that the last 3 or 4 years. If you go look at my Instagrams
and I've done that the last 3 years. I think I watched a lot of movies. Like if it was a Halloween or a horror type movie and it was something I'd never seen, I don't care how campy it was or whatever else, I'd just throw it on that month, and then I'd rewatch a lot of classics too.
Yeah,
there's stuff I want to see every year, and then obviously you want to see some new stuff as well.
For sure. There's always I'll try to put in some really old classics too. Like I have the original Dracula, and I have the original Psycho. So I try to throw in some stuff like that too.
Well, with on demand too, there's so much older variety now that it's almost like video store variety where they just have stuff to eat space on the shelf, right? And for a while, you didn't quite get that when it was okay, we're going to play these movies this month, and if you didn't like what HBO had or, they're playing it at a certain time. But with on-demand and all the streaming services now, it's so easy to find new stuff. Like the other night, I watched part of the Black Sabbath Anthology, which is basically a 3-part miniseries from the 60s, right? And that's where pretty sure that's where the band lifted their name from, was this movie, and it's basically just a little horror movie that's got 3 little parts into it, 3 stories in there, and it's almost Twilight Zone-ish in some regards, right, where you're trying to tell multiple stories in there, which is fine too, because I wish more movies would do that, because you don't always have to have like a feature length for an idea, right? Some of the best horror stories out there can be like a short little idea, right? If you've got 20 minutes of an amazing idea, then fucking leave it at 20 minutes. Don't water that shit down and make it a feature length. Put that in as an anthology, or put that into a series or something else, and make it the best it can possibly be, even if it's a short.
I'm significantly less into anthologies, because usually they're lower quality. I like Creepshow, and I like Four Rooms. Not many others will get my attention. I know the VHS movies, those horror ones, they're horror anthologies, and I think Trick or Treat is. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, it is.
Some other movie. Yeah, and then there's a couple other out there. There's that new Kevin Smith one that looks pretty good. Kilroy Was Here. So.
Yeah, but that's my thing, though. Like, some of those, like, they're just taking a short idea that's a good idea, right? And instead of making it a feature length, which, when you have to build up a short story and try to do that, right? And I get that some movies want to start as a short story to get their concept out there and then do a feature length because that's their intentions. But I think people forget
Evil Dead, for example.
Yeah, but I think people forget the ability to tell a story in a limited amount of time. Or, like, if you want to add on to that later on, you can. You can revisit it later, but you don't have to take a great concept and overdo it, right? You've done some short films, right? And the one you did, like, I could see it being something longer, but at the same time, you're able to tell your story, which is that the VHS movie that you did. I forget what you titled that one.
Soap and Honey.
Yeah, when you did that one, like, to me, that's an idea that's like, yeah, you're exploring concepts, you're exploring things, and you don't necessarily need a feature-length story to experiment in that area, right? Is that story worth telling? Is that technology worth telling? Like, right? I think people forget that it's almost therapeutic in a way to explore arts in different ways, right? So if you're in film or you're making film, like, right, how would you want to do a story, right? People start with shorts because, okay, you just kind of have a concise story to tell. It's something that digestible, right?
I see what you're saying, but
So.
I'm just a way less of a fan of that style of format, so it kind of just makes me go, nah, I don't know, I'd rather just see a horror movie. But I'm also, as far as horror movies go, if I'm going to put one in, usually it's from the 80s or 90s, sometimes the late 70s, and, randomly, occasionally the 2000s has some good stuff. There's some good stuff in every era, arguably. Not really arguably, there just is, but I don't know.
I just think there's more to explore in that area where you can make it good, or you can have great stuff that's just not really touched on like it could be. But we're also seeing a huge shift in, consumption of this stuff, right? Like when you're looking at it right now, like, it's so easy to produce and create quality content on a budget now, as long as you have some basics, that I think we're going to see some good storytelling. It's just a matter of, is that worth adapting? It's like finding those right ideas to make it and adapt it. Because for me, I always hear stories of like a good short that's a short, and then they make a feature length, and they're like, yeah, the feature length missed the mark, and then you can never find the short because they try to like wipe it from existence or like limit its availability after someone bought the rights for a feature length.
Huh.
Hey, but speaking of Spirit Halloween, or the Spirit of Halloween, I found one open here the other day, and went in and grabbed a few things. They had got some Ghostbusters little shot glasses and a Beetlejuice shot glass. I don't do a lot of shots, but they're just something to throw up in the ever-growing collection of Ghostbusters drinking vessels. So, just something to have on display there. And then they had a couple of like plastic cups that were a different artwork that I'd never seen before, so I grabbed the two of those they had. And then they had some keychains that kind of missed the mark on it. Like one was like a, like a Shining Room key, and it was like kind of cheesed out, but instead of just being like the basic, hey, like here's the key to that. So I got one of the Mystery Machine. A little keychain cool for that. I was like, I don't know if I'll use it, but
I saw
just
online
a little fun thing to have. I think that'd be kind of
a bunch of cool stuff at Spirit Halloween.
Yeah, and so for me, like, I'm probably not going to use this keychain for anything besides like a Halloween decoration, right? Like I'll be able to put that up during Halloween and be like, oh, there's the keys to the Mystery Machine. Just something kind of neat in the background there. Well, we got some content we should get into, so let's jump on in.
We now return to the real Ghostbusters.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
Pretty good. Bill Murray's the funniest man on the planet.
Episode by episode.
Extreme Ghostbusters, episode 14, Greased. So this episode has a pretty interesting, hilarious introduction with a classic cold opening with a security guard watching security cameras. But he's also on TV watching basically X-Files.
Yeah.
But
they changed the name slightly, which is actually foreshadowing what happens later in the episode.
They just changed them to Mully and Skolder.
Good enough for government work. I'll take it.
So immediately, as soon as it flashed the thing's shape, I was like, oh, this is a Gremlins episode.
Yeah.
Cool.
Gremlin. Hell yeah. You got to appreciate anytime you can get a gremlin that's not in the Gremlin universe.
Yep. And they also several times reference the Twilight Zone episode with, quote, Captain Kirk that William Shatner's in. I don't know if you've ever watched that, but I've watched it. It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic one, man. Like, how do you not watch that, right?
Obviously referenced in fucking everything throughout pop culture history. It's one of the most famous episodes of that show. People know it even if they've never seen the episode, so.
Oh, yeah, you know what people are talking about when that comes up, just because there's something on the wing. Something.
So this had a lot of random pop culture vibes to it.
Yep. So they also have the AOL spoof there at the time, right? Because basically you see that Garrett's trying to drum up business because they haven't had a call in weeks, and they're trying to figure out why the hell their internet's not working, and Garrett's trying to start a website for him to promote, and it's the U.S. Online Computer instead of America Online. U.S. Online Computer. You're like, okay, AOL, because you didn't really have a lot of options back then.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. Top dog. They're always like, the internet provider is not working, or whatever they keep calling it. The service provider, I don't know. They're not calling it what it actually is. They're just calling it, like, I feel like a jumbled term that what people would have called it when they didn't know what to call it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, so you basically find out that they get down there to the, they get this call to go down and check it out at the AOL company, and realize that it's the gremlin that's down there, but the FBI agents show up because it's, they're investigating.
Yeah.
And you're like, are they going to go Men in Black? Or are they going to go X-Files route? And they kind of go straight-laced FBI guys, like neither one of them are believers. And really only the main one guy really has a lot of the speaking dialogue. So
the other guy he's kind of stupid and doofy.
Yeah.
And he randomly pipes in with, those guys were cool when they meet the Ghostbusters and shit.
And so,
yeah.
One of my favorite things on this was they explained that, Egon's talking about gremlins and saying like, oh, in World War II, a lot of the airplane engines and issues were caused by gremlins. And then Egon's like, oh yeah, what do you think happened to the Titanic?
Right.
And Roland's like, the Titanic? And Egon's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, they're very small, but they can do a lot of damage.
He says the Titanic just arrived.
They had an interesting explanation that, they have ectoplasmic residue that's made to loosen mechanical connections, right? So, basically saying that these guys have a slime version of WD-40 built into their claws for destructing things. And I'm like, huh. I didn't really expect anyone to put that much thought into a 23-minute TV show, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's something. It's interesting. It's different. It's new to me.
Yep. And then so you kind of see these ghosts coming around town, or not the ghosts, but the gremlins going around. So they're trying to figure out where he's going to go next because their phone's not working. So they go to the phone company. After they'd been down in the subway. Anyway, they find out this gremlin hitched a ride when the Ecto-1 breaks down, and they got to take a taxi down to the phone company. And then the phone company's basically like, yeah, you didn't pay your bill, so we terminated your service. And they seem to go into financial woes of this a lot. And you're like, for as much as you guys are charging for these things, you guys should have a lot more money around.
Unless they're if you're... By extreme, they mean discount.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're college students. It's cheap. But what about proton charging and storage of the beast?
That's only going to come to $1.
Yeah, that's Monopoly money in this series, apparently.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
I thought it was pretty badass, though, when Kylie catches this damn gremlin by herself, like with her pack, because she's got the small proton blaster, right, since she carries the trap. So she captures this thing all on her own the first time. You're like, oh, fuck yeah. Showing her being a badass heroine. You're like, okay, cool. That's good. That's excellent. She does the work, gets the job done, and then, of course, the FBI shows up, and they're like, acting like Walter Peck, like these bozos who conveniently show up and stop the gremlin, and then they arrest him, and well, then you're on an airplane with a gremlin. So yeehaw. And it starts fucking shit up. Slimer comes up there and helps him out, which I don't even remember how they explained Slimer getting up there.
He was eating. He was chasing the plane, and I remember then he slid through one of the propellers, and then he...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Got into the cargo, and then he went up and started eating the food out of the fucking closet.
Yeah.
And then the FBI agents find him and think he's the gremlin.
Yeah, and they unlock the Ghostbusters and get him out after Garrett, guilt trips him about being handicapped. He's like, but my legs don't even work. He's like, what do you think I'm going to do? Go somewhere? And then the guy,
They even played sad violin music when he was talking.
Yeah. All right, just don't try anything funny.
Then he immediately beats their asses and throws them against the wall somehow. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
Right?
So, then they do some more ass whooping, and the gremlin ends up fighting with Garrett and emerging from the ground right as they're like, that's not a gremlin, that's just Slimer. And then they're like, that's a gremlin. And then the fucking gremlin opens the plane door and shit and goes flying as Garrett barely hangs on. And then
and that's after they're like, don't blast inside the airplane, you'll depressurize the cabin. And then Eduardo fucking blasts this thing while it's flying in midair and captures it.
Yeah, and he's like, it's not pressurized now.
Yeah. It's not pressurized now. Blasts him in, and then of course Kylie captures it again, and then she makes a quip about, this is why you don't let a ghost out of a ghost trap.
Yeah.
Tisk tisk tisk.
And then
so it's kind of a fun episode. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of passed over the little plot line of a couple dialogue references refer to Garrett wanting press and wanting glory for being a Ghostbuster, and then at the end he's pissed because the FBI covers it up on the news, and then kind of has one of those Indiana Jones moments at the end where there's a file cabinet full of all their shit in a warehouse, and they're putting the file on the Ghostbusters and the Gremlins in a file cabinet.
Yeah. No one will ever believe this.
Who's taking a look at this? Top men. Who?
Yeah,
top.
I had a
men.
I had a note on there that's like, he was pissed about this fake news bullshit because basically Garrett's trying to drum up business for him since they've been so slow, which is why he's working on that website. And then he's just trying to get some publicity, some press to get their name out there again. And yeah, so he's pissed when they cover it up. And they're like, a plane landed, and they're like, they say it was due to some satellite thing. And he's like, you just see him like lose his shit in his chair.
Yeah, overall, I'd say this is like as far as this series goes, it's not one of my favorites. It's not one of my least favorites. It's probably in the middle because the concept's really good and there's some really good action moments. But some of it is just kind of boring, I guess. But,
yeah, there's a few pacing issues on it, but it's not bad. When it comes on, I'm not like, oh, this episode. I'm like, oh, okay, this one's fun.
Yeah. I don't really have much more to say about it, though.
And that's all I have to say about that.
What are we talking about next? We're going to do the So Bad It's Still Pretty Fucking Awful.
This movie is so bad. 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 It's still pretty fucking awful.
So this movie that we're going to talk about, if you'd believe this or not, right? If you would believe this, could you believe this bullshit? This movie has a 10% on the tomato meter and a 20% audience score. Now, you may recall that we spoke about a movie called Mortal Kombat recently. This is its counterpart. This is Street Fighter.
You're talking like William Shatner, doing the William Shatner. This is Street Fighter.
Street Fighter.
The movie. But it doesn't have that in the title.
Raul Julia's last movie, so I think everyone kind of knows this story, but this was his last movie role. He was dying of stomach cancer, I believe, when he filmed this, and did this movie only because his kids were a big fan of the game series. And then, of course, Jean-Claude Van Damme, I think he did this just out of spite, because everyone knows that Johnny Cage is basically a take on his character from Bloodsport. And you're going to have a character based on his character, and you don't even get to play the character that's based on you in the movie. I think he was pissed that he wasn't in Mortal Kombat as Johnny Cage. So he's like, well, fuck you guys. I'll be Guile in fucking Street Fighter.
What year did Street Fighter come out? I thought it came out first.
Did it?
Am I wrong?
See what year this was. This came out December 22nd, 1994.
Yeah, that's before Mortal Kombat.
Oh, really?
Not by too long, but yeah. I think Mortal Kombat's 95.
I remember I saw this in Louisiana because I remember this movie was coming out, and we were down there at our grandma's house over Christmas break. And I was like, look, this fucking movie's coming out. I'm going to it. So I think I made Dad take me to see it one day. I think I was basically like, look here, motherfucker. And I didn't say that at the time because it was in 1994. I was 9 years old. You know, what am I supposed to say? Look here, motherfucker? No, that's not how I said it. I was like, look, really want to see this movie. I do remember
one time quoting Forrest Gump at Dad, saying, "Are you stupid or something?" And he did the angry whisper in your ear while grabbing your arm, you know.
Oh, yeah, like, look here.
I will fucking end your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie, if you've seen this movie,
I'm sorry.
The highlight of this movie to me is the soundtrack. And that's only for nostalgia purposes. The soundtrack's not really good. I have a cassette tape of it, and maybe I'll put that on my mixtape for Project Mixtape. Maybe that'll be the opening track to one of these things in here.
Don't make me puke.
Maybe you'll be delighted. And maybe I'll follow that up with something off the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. Ooh, what do you think of that? So this movie opens up with Civil War in Shadaloo. Jean-Claude Van Damme's on the good guy's side, which they never explain in this movie why Jean-Claude Van Damme speaks like Jean-Claude Van Damme with his normal accent.
Yeah.
And yet he plays an American soldier.
Right.
With an American flag tattoo.
It's
like,
pretty...
no, it's not too far-fetched of a concept for someone to be an immigrant and join the United States military, right? Plenty of people do that, so that's... But that's not the way, like, they market this game, right? This is like the all-American, yeah, I'm Bud Rock kicking ass, yeah, I'm so American, yeah. You know, that kind of thing. And then they're like, here's Jean-Claude Van Damme. And you're like, cool, all right.
There's a couple things I can say about this movie. One, I didn't take that many notes, because not many of that things were noteworthy. The kind of movie this kind of movie is, per se, I should say. I'm not making any fucking sense right now, because this movie, it has no moments that are so bad that they're good. It has no moments where you're like, oh, this is hilarious or funny because it's bad. It's just bad. And there's a couple fight sequences and things like that where you're like, oh, this is entertaining for a few minutes. But overall, I'm sitting there going, shit, I would rather just get on my phone and dick around than watch this, which was unfortunate. Anytime as a kid this movie came on, I was like, fuck yeah, we're going to watch this shit. And there were only a couple scenes that I really remembered.
That's funny, because I think even as a kid, you're like, what the hell's going on with this? Right?
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's a few things in this movie that were noteworthy to me. As sad as it is, like, there's times where you can see Raul Julia is, like, the only one putting any effort into his character development. And, like, to who his character is. Like, you can tell that even, like, he still wanted his character to be a good character. Right? Just the way he delivers his dialogue and, like, the way he's there, you can tell, like, okay, so he took this role serious. And he's the only one that kind of took this role serious.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else knew it was based off a video game, so it was kind of going to be in its own genre almost, right? Where you're just like, it's like a cheesy action movie, right? There's almost this genre stuff that's just like, yeah, let's just ham it up, right? And that's fine.
See, I haven't seen a lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, but I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but my God, he cannot act.
No, he's not a good actor at all. No, he's terrible.
He's like the discount store's clearance section Arnold.
Yes.
Where he's like, he talks kind of funny. I have this.
Yeah, the whole time he's talking, I'm just like annoyed by his accent. The only thing he's got.
I'm not annoyed by his
Arnold,
accent, but it's just the fact that it's like there is no effort behind him. He's just talking. He's repeating remembered lines. He's not a trained actor, it feels like. But hey, if you disagree with me, tell me. Not that I'll change my opinion, but
no, I don't. I mean, I think you're dead on with that, right? His thing on Arnold is his martial arts skills, right? He can do a very well.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Coordinated fight scene, right? Like Bloodsport, I like, and that's probably my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, right? Just because it's like a straight-up movie. It's a story about fighting, and that's basically what it is. So it doesn't try to be anything it's not, right? It doesn't give you any unnecessary bullshit. It's just kind of to the point with what it is. And I appreciate that, right? You're going to give me an action movie like that about fighting? Okay, then just make it about that. Like, I don't need all this other nonsense in it. So that's my favorite role he's in. You know my favorite thing about his character in this movie?
No.
The fucking temporary American flag tattoo they put on his fucking arm, and then he, like, flexes, and he's like, oh!
Yeah.
Yeah, like, all fucking roided out, like, look at this, and you're like, that's as cool as you're ever going to be in this movie.
Yeah, so it has a couple things that aren't terrible for it. The fact that they have a lot of the characters from the games in it. I think almost all the characters that you can play as in Street Fighter 2 are in this, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a lot, yeah, there are a lot of characters in there, yeah.
However, a couple of them are done okay. A couple of them are done shitty.
Yes.
For example, Blanca.
Well, Blanca, they combined two different characters, which they totally fucked up. To me, that was one of the biggest sins from the, trying to make this into a movie, was combining the character of Charlie, which, appeared later on, because that's who Guile's trying to get vengeance for in Street Fighter 2 when you first meet him.
Yeah.
And then you combine Blanca, who's basically a Brazilian, monster creature that's like just naturally like that on his own, and you're like, what are you guys doing, right? And even kids know that shit because, like, as a kid, I remember having the Street Fighter 2 for a Super Nintendo, right? And you have the game book, so you're always reading about the characters because it was like, oh, here's a little paragraph about the character, and you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
So, the girl that played Cammy, her name is Kylie. I guess she's like a really well-known Australian pop singer. She's big in Japan. No, big in Europe, in England and stuff. So I didn't really realize that. The actress that did Chun-Li was pretty good. Ming-Na Wen, she's great. I mean, I liked her character. I think she had a good amount of... And I'm trying to think what else she wanted to be in.
Yeah, so Saget, he was good at acting through the scenes. Vega was pretty pointless. It was like the Boba Fett of this movie. Looked really cool, but didn't do shit that you liked.
Okay, so let me jump back here. So Ming-Na Wen was actually in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's why I was like, she looked really familiar rewatching that. So she does a good job in there. But yeah, to your point, Vega was just one of those characters like, oh, okay, it's going to be really cool. And then they start showing you like the fight scene that looks like it's from Street Fighter 2 when you fight Vega, where you're like, okay, there's kind of this caged area and you're fighting this guy with the mask and this, and he's all about his beauty looks. He felt like the poor man's Antonio Banderas in here, like the kind of character they went for.
Yeah.
Very limited dialogue, which is fine, right? You don't always have to have these characters have a bunch of dialogue. I'm good with that. And then Ken and Ryu, they fucked up. They're like, hey, these two are going to be like some scam artists that are over here trying to make money. And you're like, what?
Yeah, they're like make-believe arms dealers.
Yeah.
They rip people off.
And then, they get in their
dumb.
classic uniforms when they decide to join the Chandelou army of Bison. So you're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I don't like that. At least they tried to give it in their uniforms. Bison was pretty much in his, his movie version of it at least. And then Blanca looked pretty fucking bad.
Oh, yeah. Like, to me, he looked like the poor man's version. Like, it looked like a homemade version of somebody trying to do the Incredible Hulk, the Lou Ferrigno version of the Incredible Hulk. You're like, oh, we're going to paint him green. Like, the prosthetics they put on his face to make him look scary or look like shit. And, like, they're like, oh, we increased muscle mass that much. And, like, he doesn't look anything different besides the fact that he's green. Like, you should have just used two different character actors because they didn't do that, unfortunately.
So, yeah. I was in and out of the second half of this movie. Like I said, I couldn't even take notes. There was nothing interesting enough to take notes about. I was just
So there is a scene in this that I remember even from being a kid, right? And from being a kid that went through some like childhood trauma and some other bullshit. As a kid, even this stuck with me then, and it stuck with me my entire life, which is really weird to take something so philosophical from the fucking Street Fighter movie, right?
Oh, God, what is it?
So when E-Honda's, when E-Honda's getting whipped in the back, right?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and he's basically like, I put my mind in a different place.
He says, yeah, something like that. Like he separates them.
Yeah, like, he's like, yeah, that's, part of being sumo is that, you're able to put your mind in a separate place from your body. And so, like, that's something like when you're running out of adrenaline, getting a tattoo that's been there for a while, like, you're like trying, you try to remove your mind from what your physical experience is, right? And, to me, that was very relatable there because, you do that with other things too, right? I think people that have been through some bullshit have a way of doing that, right? Whether that's healthy or not, that just struck with me as being able to separate physical pain from mental anguish too.
Right.
Kind of interesting there. But yeah, that's something that stuck with me. Like when that scene came up and I was like, oh, I remember the scene, like it's something that stuck with me, and I watch it and it wasn't nearly as profound as it was then, right? Because I remember the scene being bigger and better than it was. Like you just see him get hit a few times and like you see him just like stand there and I think it's Balrog's with him there, and he's like, "How do you handle that?" And he's like, "Yeah." But to me, that was one of the few things that's ever stayed with me from this movie.
Yep.
Oh, and then they wanted it to be Super Mario Brothers too. And I say Super Mario Brothers because M. Bison's little flying chair or a little globe just reminded me of Bowser's little happy face thing that he'd fly around and try to smash you in. And I was like, oh, it's the same concept. And then the only thing in there that was kind of interesting was M. Bison's technology when he's talking about the, electromagnetic induction.
Yeah, he talks about a lot of weird shit. Rants.
Yeah, but he's talking about, that's how he's flying with his boots, and he's like, basically saying that's how the bullet trains in Japan travel.
See, I missed that because I just zoned out, must have been zoned out for that.
Yeah, so, I mean, not life-changing, but there's like little glimmers of things in there you're like, you guys weren't completely brain dead when you wrote this, but, you kind of went through it too, and then like there's the cheesy scenes with the stealth boat and everything else going on there.
Have you ever seen the other Street Fighter live-action movie?
What is it, the Chun-Li or whatever? No, I've never seen it.
Me neither.
This one was so bad, I've never even watched any of the animated Street Fighter stuff or that.
There's the anime one, Street Fighter 2, I hear is not too bad.
That one's well known for being like a decent one, but I just a lot of people used to rent the VHS tape of that or buy it or whatever, and I just don't think I ever got around to getting it.
Makes sense.
And then the other thing at the end, like where they're trying, they don't know tonally where they want to go with this movie. So near the end, DJ is, telling Zangief that, like, yeah, we are the bad guys. He's like, what? I had no idea.
Right.
And then he's like, what? He's like, then why were you helping him? He's like, for the money? And then he's like, you got paid? And it's just so out of place because it's like it's not even the right timing for a joke like that. You're like, what? Yeah, and then Sagat, I think they did a good job with his character to some degree, right? They kind of show him as not just being, they just kind of show him as a fighter there, but he's also got a little bit more story to him, right? So he's one of the few characters that actually almost has a story arc.
Right.
Almost.
I gotta tell you, this might be the worst movie we've talked about yet. That holds my attention the least.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible, man. Like, it was hard to get through. Like, it was a...
it's bad enough that I'm like, okay, all right, let's move on. Like, let's fucking finish this segment. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I'm butthurt about it.
I had to pause it and take a break and get a snack just so I could be like, okay, let me finish this trash. Because I was taking notes at the beginning, and then, like, to a certain point, it was just like, you can just kind of tell, like, where I lost interest completely because my notes just, like, become very sporadic, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's something to mention there. There's, like, 2 or 3 things, and, for an hour-and-a-half movie, you're like, yep, there's 10 minutes of conversation there. So, this movie's terrible. I would almost argue that Mortal Kombat Annihilation is better than this movie.
Oh. That movie has moments that are fucking so bad that they're funny. That's why that movie is actually almost enjoyable to watch, because it's so bad. This one has none of that.
Yeah, exactly. It has nothing like that. So if it came down to watching Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat Annihilation, I'm watching Annihilation.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way in on that one. So
yes.
I mean, I've seen this movie 2 times all the way through that I know of in my life, Like, I don't know what I may have seen it on TV or whatever in the 90s after it was, like, on HBO or whatever that kind of shit was, but I know I saw it in theaters, and then I just saw it now, and if I never see it again, I will not lose any sleep. I'll be just fine with that. So hopefully you tortured yourself and watched this along with us, or you'll go watch it now and hear what we're talking about, and then maybe you can tell us how wrong we are that you love this movie. It's the greatest film in cinema history, and that Martin Scorsese is a piece of shit, and that Kevin Smith doesn't know what he's doing after watching Street Fighter because it's perfect. If you do that, I will probably get you in touch with a mental health counselor or professional to help you get the help you need to be successful in life. Because if you have that opinion, I hate to be a dick about it, but you are fucking wrong. Absolutely out of control, 100% wrong.
So hey, while we got you here, we're doing a little contest on our Instagram for little gift bags we're giving away. With each one of them is going to include a VHS tape, either Jurassic Park, Independence Day, Twister, Ninja Turtles, or Top Gun. And it's also going to include a couple other different things, some little knickknacks and collectible small things. So there's another, from the time you're going to hear this, probably there's about 6 or 7 days until we announce the winner. So the podcast is going to be released next week, episode 20. So all you have to do is go to Instagram, make a post about your favorite VHS growing up, tag 2 of your friends, and tag us. That's all you have to do to enter. It doesn't have to be a picture of the VHS tape or anything. It can be a picture of your boobs with your nipples covered up if you want. If you don't have boobs, make up some moobs.
I mean, I was going to say, I think everyone does. And that's fine. Just do it. Just get on there and enter this contest. It's going to be fun, right? So when you think about VHS, you may not have a VCR, but at least you can tell that story like, hey, I listened to this podcast, and I got this VHS tape just for simply being fucking cool. And you can tell people that. It's like a trophy without being a participation trophy, right? Like, no one wants a participation trophy. People want a fucking trophy for badass shit. How would you like to have Twister as a trophy? Like, I won this because I fucking excel at life.
Right.
That's a story to tell to your grandkids.
And all I had to do was make one Instagram post and tag 2 friends who also might be interested in either our podcast or the contest.
And they'll tell 2 friends, and they'll tell 2 friends, and they'll tell 2 friends.
And so on, and so on.
Exactly. No, so jump in there and do that. Right now we have a limited number of entries, so give these people some competition. And then speaking of VHS, there's a friend of mine, I know he does some screen printing here in town, so we might run through him if we get some shirts made up eventually. But him and one of his friends have an ongoing gag where they try to like outdo each other for the worst gift ever. And so for his birthday this year, his friend sent him like 15 or 20 VHS copies of the movie Shrek.
Nice.
And I'm like, that's just amazingly asinine. Like, could you imagine just having a whole fucking shelf of Shrek on VHS in your house? And I would put those up on display just for the story. Be like, oh yeah, this is an ongoing gag we have. And I mean, that's a
no, I
trophy
wouldn't
for
even
the
do that
fucking
though. I would
trophy
just
room.
I would have that be the only movies on display in my living room with a VHS player hooked up.
Yes.
And be like, no, just those VHSs and a VHS and a VCR and a TV. And people always be like, what? What's up with that? And I'd be like, oh, it's the only movie I like.
Put that in a guest room and have that be the only option, right? You know, no antenna, nothing else hooked up but Shrek on VHS. And like they're like, how many copies of this do you have?
Oh, do you need another?
I got enough. I got enough. Like I got enough, so you never have to rewind. Not everyone has a rewinder machine, so you know, I just want people to be able to start it over wherever they want.
Right.
Or you tell people something crazy like, oh, well, this is the tape I only rewind back to 28 minutes and 17 seconds in because this is my favorite part in this movie here, so I put this tape in when I want to watch this scene.
Mm-hmm.
You can get real weird with that real quick. And you only live once, so get as weird as you can.
Pretty much. Hey there, kids. Do you miss VHS? Join us in our quest for VHS tapes in a new giveaway from the Frog Brothers Podcast. We have 5 little gift bags we put together, each including a VHS tape as well as several other collectible items. 5 lucky winners will each get one of these gift bags. All you have to do to enter is go to Instagram, make a post about your favorite VHS tape growing up, and be sure to tag 2 friends as well as Frog Brothers Podcast to enter. The contest ends Monday the 17th. We'll announce the winners the following Tuesday on the podcast. Remember, be kind, rewind.
Top 5, 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 top 5. Top 5.
This is top 5.
So our top 5 this week, Alec and I were having a little bit of a trouble finding a topic, just because we usually do a little bit of prep on this, but somehow we had everything else listed out, and then we realized today that we didn't have a top 5 on there. And we were both kind of drawing blanks, and he just said, top 5 movie cops. And we fucking ran with it. So, top 5 movie cops it is.
So, I want to say before we go into this list, it doesn't have to be a simple police officer. I think it could have been a detective or a sergeant. I think even an FBI agent would be okay.
See, I kept it with actually police officer titles because I had to change my number 1 because it was an FBI agent. But I figured we could come back to that another time. I have an FBI agent on mine. I have one on mine, so it just happened. I mean,
they are basically the same as detectives in these situations. Badges and guns. So there's only, I think, one of them is a FBI agent. The others are pretty much officers. A sergeant.
Yeah, there's some good ones on there. Now, there's a lot of fucking movie cops. There's a lot of potential honorable mentions on here.
Mm-hmm.
But as we said, like, the rule is we typically just go by what comes to mind.
Yep.
Not doing a lot of research, so here's my top 5 of what came to mind. And I'm going to tell you right now, starting with number 5, and thanks for asking, by the way, Alec.
I can't ask when you just tell me that you're going right into it. What is this?
I know, I like being an asshole because I've always done that. Everyone like, and thanks for asking, by the way. I love doing that in this segment because you don't usually ask me mine. I usually just do it because I'm an asshole.
So do.
So, Blues Brothers. And if you're thinking Frank Oz, no, it's not Frank Oz.
John Candy.
Fuck yeah, John Candy as detective, or not even detective, but he's Burton Mercer, parole officer. And any cop that'll get a drink while watching a live band perform, you know, he gets around to orange whips for everybody.
Yeah. Orange whip?
Like that's a, yeah. Orange whip, 3 orange whips. That's the kind of guy I want to spend some time with, hang out with, and pick his mind. And so, strictly because I like his style and I like how he lives as a cop, yeah, he's number 5. What's your number 5?
1994. See, my list is going to be a little more serious because I thought about even just trying to do like, you know what? I bet Bruce Willis has played 5 different cops in 5 different movies. I could probably just make a list of just Bruce Willis. I thought about doing something like that just to be funny and to be an asshole. And I thought about coming up with a bunch of bit parts for cops, but I ended up going with, all right, I'm going to try to do some real, my favorite cops. And this is going to be number 5 from 1994's The Crow, Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Albrecht, or Albrecht.
That's a fucking great choice right there.
My first thought actually was him as the cop in Airheads, and then I realized, no, wait, he's also a cop in The Crow. That's the shit.
Mm-hmm.
Had to look up the name of the officer, but...
Oh, yeah, I don't expect you to... Once I had my list, I just verified that I had the names right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of my other ones, you know, I kind of had a mix here, but like I said, it's the first things that came to mind. So... And then I just sorted them out by what was on there and what was, like, honorable mentions, so...
So what's your number 4?
Number 4 for me is fucking Harrison Ford and Blade Runner. Card. I just think
See, I mean, that's technically not a police officer, but I'll give it to you. He's a Blade Runner.
Yeah, but they say, like, technically they're part of the police department, right? And so they take their orders from that even though they're a Blade Runner. So for me, like, that was close enough.
I'll buy it.
But I like that just
Runner.
because... Yeah, I love that movie, right? And there's multiple... The other thing I like about Blade Runner is there's variety to Blade Runner. Like, there's a couple of different takes on the movie, and they're all unique in their own way. So, like, I do quite enjoy more than one version of that film. And there's not a lot of movies that have, like, multiple versions out there, so I kind of appreciate that I can get that, but I can also get a little variety within that.
I have the director's cut of Blade Runner on VHS, and I have the final cut on DVD.
Hell yeah. So I've got a digital copy that includes a couple versions of it.
Hell yeah. So my number 4...
Yeah, what's your number 4?
from 1992, another 90s film. Not the last either. Tim Roth as Mr. Orange in Reservoir Dogs.
Fuck yeah. Undercover cop. He's fucking iconic in that movie.
He, Tim Roth's great. And that's, Tarantino's obviously first directorial movie. And he's easily one of the best parts of that movie. Mr. Orange and White, their dialogue and their go back and forth throughout the entire movie. And its flashback scenes.
It's great.
He's great in that movie.
You immediately think to, like, the scene in the car where he's bleeding out. He's like, I'm fucking dying. I'm dying. He's like, are you a medical doctor?
Say the goddamn words.
No.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah, say the goddamn words. You're going to be okay. It's so iconic,
I'm fucking dying, Larry. I'm dying, Larry. I'm dying.
Yeah, perfect choice. That's a great one.
So, yeah. Your number 3?
My number 3. Scott Turner. A.K.A. Tom Hanks from Turner and Hooch. I mean, it's a dog movie. It's a buddy cop movie with a dog and a cop. And a dog cop. It's classic. It's good.
Not bad.
I don't
Not
know.
a bad choice.
It's not terrible, but it's one of those I remember seeing that at the drive-in when it came out. And it sticks with me, right? It's just one of those that has this sentimental value to it. So I threw that on there as number 3 because that movie just stuck with me. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is the FBI agent, portrayed by Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs, Clarice Starling.
Clarice. Hello,
She's amazing.
Clarice. Yeah.
That movie's amazing. That movie's so fucking good. It has those early 90s Twin Peaks X-Files vibes of, like, it's foggy and it's cold and the sky is constantly overcast. It's a good film. And she's excellent in it, Jodie Foster, so.
Yep, no, I could see that for sure.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 works for Roy Schneider. Police Chief.
You mean
Martin
Schneider?
Brody. Schneider? Yeah. Schneider!
No, there's no N in there.
Oh, Scheider. Yeah, I guess I did have it right. I just added extra words because I'm an asshole. Don't mind me. It happens. We all know that I'm an asshole.
No,
I just
that's
gotta own
okay.
it sometimes. But it's Yaz. So if I'm going to say things wrong, I'm going to call it Yaz. Yaz.
You sound like he's Janos.
He's Janos. He's Yaz.
Yaz is my favorite movie. You should write that into a movie now. Yaz. What?
Yaz.
My favorite movie is Yaz.
My favorite thing, so, obviously being named Justin, I had a coworker that I worked with at Target back in the day, and, Spanish was his native language, so he'd call me Houston instead of Justin, because,
Nice.
he pronounced H's and J's a little different, so it did that. It always cracked me up. Like, you can't even get mad at that. You're just like, man, I appreciate you trying. Like, that's kind of cool. I always appreciated that. A little different take on life. Like, in another world, in another place and time. What's your number 2?
My number 2?
Dead or Alive.
Yes.
You're Coming With Me.
1987.
Fucking A.
Alex Murphy is RoboCop.
I thought
Peter
about
Weller.
putting that on there. That was an honorable mention, definitely.
Yeah, he, talk about best cops. Fucking RoboCop. That's, come on. RoboCop rules. I love RoboCop. RoboCop 2 fucked me up as a kid because I had a VHS copy, and I never seen the first or third one, but I always saw the second one as a kid because I had it on VHS for some weird reason. It was one of those ones I had, for some reason, picked out in a store and been like, buy this for me. But it was fucked up because it was very violent, and those movies are really violent.
Yes.
But the first one, is my favorite, obviously. I love that movie, so Alex Murphy, RoboCop. What's your number 1?
Well, my number 1... So I've got 2 number 1s, so I let me tell you real quick. I cut out Johnny Utah from Point Break, Keanu Reeves' character, because he was FBI.
I gotcha.
But I really like that movie. That's a movie I hadn't seen, really, until, I don't know, the
he's
last
on my
couple
list,
of years.
too.
But I fucking love that
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then once I was like realizing just cops, I was like, well, there's only one fucking logical choice to talk about the greatest action Christmas movie ever made, Die Hard, John McClane. I mean,
yep.
There's nothing better to say about that. I mean, we fucking went to Nakatomi Plaza, a.k.a. Fox Plaza, because that's fucking iconic, right? How do you go away from that? Like, that is like the epitome of cops. And not to say that there's not other cop movies, but there's a lot of those out there. But my top 5 that came to mind, this is what I had. So, number 1 on there, man. Like, I never get tired of watching the original Die Hard.
So,
what's your number 1?
My number 1 was a tough debate between 2 choices the entire time. And then I had already written my 5 through 2, so I didn't put this other one as number 2 and try to reorder anything. So I'm going to tell you that one in a second also. Since you have 2 as well, I'm going to say fuck it.
Okay.
Number 1, written down here the way it is. What?
Written down the way it is. How is it written down?
Chief Brody, Jaws, 1975, number 1, played by Roy Scheider.
Okay.
Classic.
Yes, good.
That is my standard number 1. The other one is my honorable mention, second spot. Texas Ranger Earl McGraw, played by Michael Parks, in several of Robert Rodriguez's films.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Obviously including From Dusk Till Dawn. He was in Planet Terror, Kill Bill Volume 2, I believe. No, that's Kill Bill 1, isn't it? Can't even remember now. That's one movie to me in my head, so I never watch one without the other. But,
that's a good call there. Yeah, we had some good, interesting lists here. Like, we didn't have very much overlap here at all. I don't think we had any overlap this time.
Except Jaws.
Except, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a given, right? I mean, it's hard to argue with that.
Well, John McClane was my first name that I wrote down. My third name was Dewey from Scream. And then I also wrote down Nicholas Angel from Hot Fuzz. So, and Johnny Utah I wrote down as well.
So, a couple of my runner-ups that just came to mind was Arnold Schwarzenegger in Kindergarten Cop. I mean, it's so easy to quote that. It's not the tumor. My mom says that my dad is a real sex machine. And that had a bunch of controversy recently because people were saying that is teaching children to go into, is like conditioning children to be like harassed by police and go into that. And I'm like, and prepare for life in prison so it didn't play up somewhere like Portland. And I'm like, I mean, it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, so I can't take it too serious. And I don't necessarily agree with that opinion. I could see where they're coming from to some degree. But at the same time, I think their energy would be better spent on educating people about what it comes system, not fucking an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Like, fix the fucking problem. Capitalism and for-profit prisons.
Yeah, dude, fuck off. It's a movie.
That too, yeah.
I agree with your agenda, but not with this result. This is stupid. It's a fucking movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger yelling in his Arnold 90s voice at children. That's why it's funny, because he's like, Arnold, I'm yelling at children. That's why that's funny. Not because it's a cop yelling at children. If anyone else played that
character, it wouldn't matter. You know, they made a sequel to that movie in like 2016 or some shit.
Yeah.
Came up as Kindergarten Cop 2. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, you want to talk about, you got a problem with Kindergarten Cop, you better talk to the assholes that made the sequel. You got to get your agenda straight. Get your priorities figured out.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, but there was all sorts of shit that came to mind, like bit cop roles. Like, for example, Gary Busey as the cop that pulls over Raoul Duke in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
or the cop in Vacation that pulls over Clark and cries about the dog.
The dog. I had a pooch like that as a kid. Poor guy. Probably kept up for a mile or two.
I mean, there's a billion bit roles that cops have played that you could have put in there. I even debated putting the cop in Ghostbusters who says, Don't tell me how to do my job, or whatever, you know. I don't tell you how to... Whatever the fuck he says. I can't even remember the line now. I'm a disgrace.
Okay, so if we just had to do someone that played a cop in more movies than most people, Reginald Johnson. Because he's played a lot of fucking cops. And in my head, man, I have this theory. That Reginald Johnson left New York after Die Hard and went to L.A. Or no, after Ghostbusters and went to L.A. where he became a cop out there. And then he saw the shit from Die Hard. And then he went on to be in Family Matters where, you know, he just became a beat cop and doing basic shit again. And then, like, in my world, it's one universe where he's the same cop, same name and everything else, where he's just doing this shit.
We should make a YouTube video of that.
We should actually explore that. That can be that should be something else. Yeah. Corrections officer, Captain Graff, Sergeant Al Powell. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, because he's in Turner and Hooch as well. He plays a detective in there. So I want to make a movie about how he's in the witness protection but still wants to be a cop all around the world. And that's very, very important. I think this could be a life-changing event for a multiverse. Can we make a multiverse around him? Can we retcon all these movies where he's got the same name and he's in the same film universe? It's like a Stephen King thing, right? Where it's all just kind of.
And you really could see them.
All overlaps.
I joked about it in our video when we were at Nakatomi Plaza about busting the ghost of Hans Gruber. But I think somebody may have to. I mean, now it appears it may actually happen.
Yeah, it may actually happen. Now, I think this is something we really need to have a discussion about. We might have to bring a couple experts on. We might have to do an in-depth discussion about this once you move up here about the Reginald Johnson universe, multiverse.
Yeah, we need to start a thing about that.
So we're gonna work on that. So we'll circle back to it. But that's the top 5 movie cops.
We have one more segment today, one of our movie segments, a little shorter movie segment as it always is. But either way, movie had an anniversary recently. What was that movie date?
August 23rd in the 1985th year. This movie came out starring Michael J. Fox. And if you're thinking, didn't Back to the Future just have an anniversary? Well, no, we're talking about Teen Wolf today. Teen Wolf. Fucking classic. No, I'm not talking about that fucking garbage-ass TV show on MTV. Like, use a different fucking title. So sick of everyone wanting to use the same titles. Well, there's brand equity in it. You're like, get the fuck over your brand equity and come up with your own idea. Dingbat. And anytime you can call somebody a fucking font name as an insult, that's pretty badass. I love to call people a dingbat. They're like, what's a dingbat? You're like that fucking font that's not useful to anyone ever.
You fucking Comic Sans motherfucker.
Yeah.
God damn.
So, Teen Wolf.
I'm looking at the VHS for Teen Wolf right now. It's very attractive.
Oh, yeah, there's some awesome artwork for that out there. So 35 years later, coming up on the 23rd, so just a few days out yet. By the time we get this episode up and released, it'll be ready for you to celebrate this anniversary. And I'd highly recommend watching this again. It's great.
Oh, yeah. It's a good Halloween prep movie. It's a good September movie, to be honest. I might even watch it again in September, because...
It is, because... right, you get that back-to-school vibe in it, but you also get the Halloween vibe in it, and you also get basketball season vibe in it, which all these things kind of go hand-in-hand together around there. So, yeah, it's a damn fine film.
Yeah. I'm about it. I didn't see this movie till I was like 20, I think. But I laughed my fucking ass off. I didn't know how I had missed it my whole life, because I loved Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, and there's not enough Michael J. Fox movies. He was taken away from film from us too soon. And then he later did Stuart Little voices and shit. But my God, man. If I had a time machine, I would go back and be like, make more movies, quit Family Ties now! I'm sorry, Family Ties fans.
Yeah, sorry, Family Ties, but I'm not a huge Family Ties person myself, you know? I'm just like,
yeah. I ain't got shit on Teen Wolf, Back to the Future.
Nope. Yeah, and to me, I'd seen this movie a few times growing up, but it's just kind of one of those movies that I've sought out because I do appreciate Michael J. Fox and other stuff, right? So you're like, okay, so I remember that movie, and like I hadn't seen it in forever, you know, until maybe, I don't know, probably 10 years ago I started, you know, I found it and watched it again. And it's just kind of one of those movies that sticks with you. It's funny, it's silly, it's like a coming-of-age story that's unique in its own way, right? And then, you know, it's not just like, oh, a monster flick, because, yeah, he's intimidating to the other kids in there, but he's also figuring out who he is and, like, getting confidence as a teenager, right? And, like, it's so... every teenager feels like a monster because they're hormones. And, well, okay, so what if you really are a monster? You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things that's so cheesy and in your face with it, but it works because there's sincere characters in there, right? Michael J. Fox plays it as sincere that someone that kind of becomes an asshole once he gets a little power and fame to his head, right?
Yeah,
so.
It even has a little bit of spicy bestiality going on. When the girl's like, no, I don't want to fuck you, I want to fuck the wolf. And he's like, you know what, fuck it, it's still my dick. You can see that's what he's thinking. It's pretty fucked up, but that's what it is. I wonder... I don't actually wonder, but I was going to say, I wonder how hairy he gets. Or if his dick changes into a red rocket or what. How far does this wolf transformation go?
Oh my God. What the hell's wrong with you?
Do you want a list?
Red rocket, oh my God. You're killing me, Smalls.
He's got a job at a makeup counter, everybody. Watch out.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. Good. Michael J. Fox's red lipstick in Teen Wolf. But no, seriously. That scene always kind of strikes me as a little weird. Not as weird as, like, the... Basically... Well, it is a rape scene in Revenge of the Nerds, which makes it hard to go back and watch that bullshit, even though Snot is in it. Not Snot, Booger. He's Snot in American Dad, though, the Curtis Armstrong actor. But Teen Wolf. This movie...
So, this movie opened in number 2 position behind Back to the Future of 85. So, Michael J. Fox is basically just fucking owning 1985.
I can't imagine how many loads he must have blown that year, too. Being in those two spots. I mean, I'm serious. In 1985, can you imagine? He was like, how old was Michael J. Fox then? Early 20s?
I don't know. You tell me.
Pretty sure he was in his early 20s. Like, he was 21 or 22, maybe.
I'm kind of wondering what the fuck's wrong with you, because you're talking an awful lot about... You remind me of the scene in Mallrats where he's like, yeah, and you talk a lot about superhero dongs.
Well, I talk about monster dongs. Next, you know, in Halloween, all we're going to do is talk about how Jason's cock is different from Freddy's, and whether or not Chucky can get it up, or if he misses his dong, you know, so... And if Pinhead's... I don't even need to say that for you to know exactly what I'm thinking.
We know where you're going. Your mind's in the gutter. Jesus Christ. So they also made a animated series version of Teen Wolf, much like everything there.
Superhero sex organs. Yeah, I know.
So you know what I also watched recently? Just because I'd never seen it. And I was like, well, I need to see it just because, you know, just because supposedly it's an important piece of cinema history. Okay, that's a lie, but Teen Wolf 2 with Jason Bateman. Right? And
Yeah, I
so
haven't
Jason
watched it.
Bateman is like a beloved actor now, right? Like he's really dynamic and, he's in Ozarks and all the other stuff he's been in, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, I can really appreciate his acting.
Arrested
You go back to
Development.
1987 and you realize that he plays Scott Howard's cousin, Todd Howard, and this movie is hot garbage. Now, the movie that I wanted to see was there's a second sequel starring Alyssa Milano was planned but never filmed. And then another female version of Teen Wolf was in the works in 1989, which became Teen Witch. So
That's funny.
It's a weird world out there.
I think my there's a couple favorite parts I have in this movie. I have 3 of them I could think off the top of my head. I want to talk about those real quick. The first one, when Scott shows God, what's his friend's name? The asshole who wears all the shirts.
Harold?
Styles.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Styles is his name, yeah. So Scott is showing Styles that he can transform into the wolf or whatever, and then he sniffs at his weed in the garage.
Oh, yeah, and finds it, and he's just super impressed with that. Yeah, that's a hilarious
He's
scene.
like, you're a god. I like all the scenes where they are surfing on the cars. Before and after he's the wolf and shit. Those are always pretty fucking hilarious, and you're like, that's badass. And
Those
my
are
number
iconic,
one
right?
was when he's trying to buy the beer. And he's just,
Give me a keg of beer.
Yeah, and his eyes glow red. You're like in that
shit
whole
rules.
80s style animation, like where they draw it to glow red.
oh, dude, I love it. It reminds me of Ghostbusters. That's why I get hard during it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
All
Like,
fucking
yeah,
Louis-
fuck yeah.
All Louis Tully on there. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I love all the stupid T-shirts that Styles wears. I recently bought the "What are you looking at, Dick Nose" shirt, and it's just timely now because we're wearing masks. But I also got a pin of that. What did that come with? Maybe it was a Proton. Maybe no. I think it was actually Neca Midas. Neca Midas bought some pins or patches from them, and like they sent me a "What are you looking at, Dick Nose" button with it.
Nice.
I'm like, that's pretty funny. But he's got some good, clever shirts in there. And the wolf design, man, like there's scenes like where the wolf looks amazing. And it also looks so cheesy, right? And so a lot of that was like the foam rubber they used to use. Like now they use thinner stuff, so it actually like is more transparent, like real skin would be, or translucent, right? So you can actually kind of see some light reflecting off behind the skin and stuff that helps create dynamic and makes something feel more alive when it, kind of shows those vibes off, which is pretty sweet. But some of the wolf looks terrible. And then, like, when I think Teen Wolf, I just immediately think of him in that fucking L.A. Lakers-looking basketball uniform. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's amazing.
Yeah, when I first saw this movie, like, 10 years ago, I wanted to do that as a costume immediately. I was looking for werewolf costumes that I could look to alter into the Teen Wolf costume, then I was going to buy that jersey outfit.
Oh, yeah. I think the easier thing to do, though, because of the hairy legs and the whole arms, if you were going to do one, would be to do the prom scene wolf, because you would just need a headpiece and hands.
Yeah, but the basketball uniform would be more recognizable instantly. Everybody else would be like, what the fuck are you, a werewolf in a tux for?
I bet you could get a Chewbacca costume and modify the hands and the mask, and it would be perfect.
I have an Alf costume, the Alf helmet. I could just wear that and be like, hey, I'm Alf in a tuxedo.
If you're going to be Alf, then just be Alf.
I would be a pretty fucking tall Alf. Alf, you're suddenly 6'1". What's happened?
I got hit by a lot of steroids. What's his name's? You've seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I got hit by the same ray that the kids did, only it blew me up.
I watched Street Fighter, and then I got a hold of Jean-Claude Van Damme and took all of his roids.
Yeah, I took his roids while working out at the gym.
So, what else you got going on? Anything?
Just getting settled in, so hopefully I'll be able to show off some of the new digs here pretty soon. What I need to do is I need to get some display cases, but kind of at that spot where I'm just like, all right, I spent a lot of money moving and everything else, so display cases will come soon enough, but that's kind of next up on my list, and I've got an idea of what I want. I don't know if I can find something that's out there, if it's something I might need to custom make, but I've got a decent amount of, like, board games and stuff like that, so I kind of want something that, like, the bottom of it can store my board games or some books, almost like a bookcase on the bottom, and the top can be a display case. Because I feel like in DTOVs and stuff, right, there's a lot of the bottom shelf stuff, like, doesn't necessarily look amazing. You put stuff down there you don't really care about. So I'm like, how would I want to maximize my space? And these are the things I've been thinking about, is maximizing my space for my displays. But I will tell you, I'm very happy with the art lineup that I've got in my room right now. So I've got the YHS poster they released recently. I've got the Tim Lottie art from Ghostbusters Fan Fest that he made as a poster. I've got the John Yerkeba poster from Ghostbusters Fan Fest that has the various teams on there, and then I've also got an Andrew Heath print of Slimer drinking the wine up there. So I've got a nice Ghostbusters wall going there of different prints and stuff like that. So that's pretty awesome. And I put a lot of stuff up in my art, man, and I tell you what, putting art up in your home immediately makes it feel like home. Like, I may still have a lot of stuff in boxes or kind of scattered about, but getting everything up on the wall immediately is like, I have nice things to look at that, like, make me smile when I walk by them and see them.
Oh yeah. It took adjusting, but my podcasting corner right now has the big Alf soft sculpture collectible that says "I kill me." It has a picture of the Frog Brothers signed by Corey Feldman. It has the signed Tommy Wiseau 8x10 framed on the wall. It has the Lost Boys comics, Destroy All Vampires and Vampires Everywhere. Then I've got the Paul Fusco and Alf signature, an 8x10 of all 4 Ghostbusters, of a little print from FanFest. The Stephen Chash and Jennifer Runyon signatures in one frame together. My paintings from Extreme Ghostbusters of Eduardo and Kylie, and a kitty calendar hanging up, because I write stuff that is important to our podcast on the calendar mostly. So,
hell yeah. So my kitchen too, I was pretty pleased with that. So above my kitchen sink, it was like a pretty big framed area, and it's a framed work by Kyle of the Electric Zombie fame. He has a real Ghostbusters print he did a while back, because I've had this thing 6 or 7 years now probably. And it's Stay Puffed with Moogly and Skeleton Ghost and some of the other real Ghostbusters ghosts, and I've got that in a nice white frame, and I put that up above my kitchen sink in my kitchen because it was a large framed item that looked just great in there. So I was like, oh yeah, this has got to go in here. And
hell yeah,
kids were over and they noticed it, and they thought it was cool that I got this big thing of Stay Puffed up in the kitchen. And then I've got quite a few of Andrew Heath's prints, and I know we talked about this recently. You're not a huge fan of the stylized stuff, but I kind of enjoy it a little bit, and I like his design stuff there. There's so much stuff that was like hyper real when it comes to art available at Comic-Cons, and I just liked how he was doing something a little different. But I'm also one of those people that like pop art is like one of my favorite styles of art from art history, right? When you look at it, and some of the Andy Warhol stuff and Ray Lichtenstein and all those kind of artists there, like pop art, man, I fucking love it. And it kind of has some of those vibes. So I've got a Back to the Future poster up in the kitchen, and then I've got a Pizza Parker, the fat version, sweatpants version of Peter Parker from Into the Spider-Verse up on there. I mean, he's eating pizza, so it kind of had to go in the kitchen. Yeah. So. But,
Makes sense.
Having that stuff up around. I mean, I got a lot of room in my living room still, which is nice because, I always want to be able to have more room for prints and stuff. And, then I've got some photo frames up in the hallways there of me and the kids and stuff like that. Like, I got a picture of the oldest dude dressed up as a pumpkin while I'm dressed up as a Ghostbuster. So, like, that's pretty awesome in one of my frames there. So,
there you go.
In my room, I need to get another one mounted up there, but the only one I have kind of by the bed right now is you and me with the Reitmans, Jason and Ivan. So
I have that up on my wall too.
Besides my face being so fat in that, that's one of my favorite pictures, man. Like I always look back at.
Right.
That was an awesome trip. I mean, aside from not having seen you for 5 fucking years in person.
Yeah, but that's still a surreal picture. I look at that picture sometimes and I'm like, you realize that plus the other photo we have with Paul Feig, we have a photo with everyone. We've been next to everyone who's directed a Ghostbusters movie now.
Yes.
So that's pretty fucking sick. And especially being next to Ivan Reitman with you and his son Jason, like that's still fucking crazy to me.
Well, my favorite thing about that is the fact that you assaulted Ivan with your wand hose when we're doing the
I
photo
almost
op.
committed ritual suicide right there because I was like, oh, dear God, I've committed the sin.
Yeah, it was going to be like Japanese traditional, like, dishonor suicide, right?
I mean, I was just lucky no one had a sword. It wasn't that kind of a con or event, so...
Yeah. No, but that was pretty awesome. So that's another one I've got up. And then I've got one of my buddy Nick and I with Jeff Goldblum as we're dressed up as Wayne and Garth as Ghostbusters. I haven't hung that one up yet. I need to get some more. I like those Command Velcro strips they make because I don't like putting holes in the wall unless I have to, just because I'm lazy like that. And they come down easier. You don't have to patch anything, yada, yada, yada. But I need to get some more of those so I can hang up some of my smaller photo frames.
Yeah, I get a lot of frames at Walmart for some of this stuff because they have a lot of a lot of bullshit, obviously. But there's a couple frames I had bought at like Dollar Tree, and those frames are garbage and don't hold up. The frames you buy at Walmart will actually work.
Yeah, no, the ones you can get at Walmart are cheap. But the other thing I found, though, man, like if you want, just spray the frame with a coat of paint, and like it'll fix any of the flaws most of those have anyway, and look way better. And they're not terrible. Now, obviously, if it's an expensive print or something like that, I'll put that somewhere else. Like, I've got a Ghostbusters movie poster that Tony got for me in the fall of 2002, when he went to KU and started on campus there. They had all those big things where they sell a shitload of movie posters and stuff like that. Well, up until that point, like finding a Ghostbusters movie poster was not something you could just easily do. But when you've got some place that's selling those to all these college students going into dorms and wanting to like put posters up and all that kind of stuff, he snagged me one of those. So I've got that framed up. I haven't rehung that up in the house yet. To be honest with you, as much as I like that poster, the fact that Ernie Hudson's not on there kind of pisses me off, and I'd almost just rather always have Ghostbusters 2 poster strictly because of that.
And, I can see that.
Or
at least just the Ghostbusters logo poster that they did that says they're coming to save the world.
Yep, and that's something, the teaser poster, that's what I'd want. Really what I want to get, and it's just going to be a matter of what would you do with that, or, getting that in series, that, to have an Afterlife poster, because they're completely different.
Well, that's the thing is, I think I'm gonna be going down to the local movie theater when that shit comes out, closer to when it's coming out at least, and being like, all right, I know somebody's gonna have a standee of that, and I want it.
Oh yeah, I'll pay for it too. Like, what do you want for it?
Exactly.
Let me know now so I can plan ahead. Like, let me earmark that because I want it.
We'll be doing that as much as possible. I'm gonna save all the cash for all Ghostbusters things when that movie comes out.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of Ghostbuster stuff, obviously there's a video going around of a review of the Spangler one. It's still supposed to ship next month. Looks great, right? Supposedly it's got a little more heft to it than the Mattel thrower. And I had the Mattel thrower for a while, but being married at the time, I flipped that wand to pay for my initial down payment on my Anovos Proton Pack, which I eventually canceled, and then they had it in stock randomly and had like a 35 or 40% off. So I got it for slightly, almost the same price I pre-ordered it for, or just less. So when I finally got it, which it's not a bad kit, but for the price I paid for that, for what it was a great value. Amazing. Like, had I paid the full price for it, Benekent hands down would have been the way to go. But you know, that's what we got out there. But the cool thing on it is, you know, there's on the back of the wand, right, everyone sees like the little flat cap that's just there for displaying it, but there's also a piece that changes out. So obviously people are immediately speculating like, oh, is that because Hasbro's going to come out with a full-size pack? It's possible they would, but I just see like the fan base being so negative and bitchy about it that it's not perfect or this or that. It's like so many of us hardcore fans already have a fucking movie accurate pack. Like, you're not going to get something at a retail price that's ever going to meet your expectations for something as amazing as it could be.
No. And see, the best thing they could do is put out something that's still going to need to be modded.
Well, yeah,
it's just an easier to mod thing, and it's slightly better than the Spirit Pack, obviously. But so many people, there's so many elitists in the Ghostbusters community, especially about
packs and
shit
stuff,
like that talk shit on the fucking Spirit Pack, and I'm like, whatever, dude, a pack's a fucking pack. There's plenty of people that are that way too, and that are great about it. So,
yeah. Now, the only thing I will say about the Spirit Pack, which I find disappointing, because I'm in some groups on there that talk about it, is I see some people spend so much time and money on a Spirit Pack that they're damn near putting in the amount of money they could have into a Ben of Kent kit. By the time they've done it and redone it and redone it and redone it, right? So if you're doing it for a reasonable value, yeah, that's perfectly fine, right? Because I've modded, you know, I traded you Spirit Pack, so the current one I've got, I've really modded out, and I really like how it looks. And it's kind of a parade pack. It's lightweight. It's super lightweight. And to me, like, that's what I would want a Hasbro pack for, right? Something that's lightweight, that I could wear out at Halloween, that I wouldn't have to worry about people bumping into or, you know, possibly damaging, right? I mean, having variety never hurt anybody, so I don't know. I look forward to seeing if they come out with anything, but I know I'm going to throw the Spangler wand on my Spirit Pack right now. I mean, because I don't want to mess with my Novos Pack, because I've got that thing pretty much, you know, you modify stuff over and over, right? You're always in pursuit of perfection on there. So there's a few things I've continually upgraded on there, which is funny because anything that I took off of that kit, I basically transferred over to the Spirit Pack, right? So the aluminum bumper that came on there when I bought a Max Factory bumper and put it on my full-size pack, you know, like, you get really good quality parts, and you're just constantly in pursuit of making it better. So, and making more, and you're like, oh, what can I do with this? That's why I'm excited still to be working on these Extreme Ghostbusters packs when you get moved up here into town.
Yep. Man, I have to build a fucking full-size pack myself.
Yeah, but I think we could do a really badass one now. But, I mean, shit, you might be lucky enough that by the time we do the Extreme Ghostbusters packs, you might be able to get a Hasbro pack that we can mod that's just full-size scale. So,
yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
The other piece from Hasbro right now worth mentioning is the small spoiler alert, but I'm sure everyone's seen it because it doesn't really tell you anything about the story beyond the fact that Phoebe wears a jumpsuit, presumably in the Ghostbusters Afterlife, because they show the action figure of her that wasn't revealed at Toy Fair on the back of the Ecto-1 box that someone leaked online.
Yeah.
And then it reaffirms the remote-controlled ghost trap that had, like, the...
yeah, there's a ramp on there and shit.
There's a ramp for that, and I don't know if that's in the movie or not, and, you know, lots of times the toy's different. But the ghost
ramp
trap
just gives
itself,
me Extreme Ghostbusters vibes.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is that anyone that was hoping to get the Ghostbusters Afterlife version of the Ecto-1 from Hallmark this year, Hallmark did announce that they officially delayed that until Christmas 2021 for that one.
Yep.
So, but that also has the little ghost trap with the monster truck wheels on it, basically. So, oh, and then the other badass thing I did, I need to get some videos of it up, is, back around the time when Answer the Call came out, they released a remote control version of the classic Ghostbusters Ecto-1. And I'd had it in box, right, forever. And then the kids were over, they saw it, and guess what we opened and played with on Saturday? Ecto-1. That thing's got some zip to it, man. The lights and sound on it are pretty cool, too. And it's pretty fast, man. Like, Pete was driving that thing full speed at me, man, and decked my foot. It was like, oh. And when I jumped up, like, out of the way to try to not get ran over a second time, well, he was laughing so hard he kept trying to do that. So I was like, yeah, you are my child. I can totally understand where you came from.
Pretty much. That makes sense. Yeah, I saw that those came out, and I never saw them in stores or anything, but when I was moving you, I was like, holy shit, you have this? And you almost mentioned selling it to me. But then I was like, yeah, I mean, I will totally buy it. And then you were talking about how you were going to open it with your kids, and then I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, do that, because honestly, I probably shouldn't spend any more money anyway. And
yeah, and I'm glad I opened it, but the only thing that I don't like about it, and it may actually work out better for it long term, is that it just takes AA batteries in the remote and in the car. So
right. Well, it's one of those things that's not going to be played with every fucking day either.
No, and they've got a couple really badass remote control cars in their mom's house that are like waterproof, so they'll spin it, they'll drive on the water, or they'll drive out of it, and they'll flip over and drive the other way. And there was something like that we had, like, I can't remember the name of it when we were kids.
They have some dope ass RC cars these days, and I'm kind of like, man, I kind of want to buy one.
Yeah. Well, they have a.
I would like to play with some RC.
At some Walmarts, you can find the Ecto-1. It's the monster truck version of it, RC car.
God
I haven't
damn,
seen that locally, but it's got the RC wheels on it, and so yeah, it almost seems like something you'd see like on an episode of Real Ghostbusters or something like that. But. And then while we're at it, hey, do you think they're going to do an animated series for following Afterlife? Or do you think they're going to go a different route and go with like one of the other series they already had in development?
I don't know. That's hard to say.
I think everything else they had in development got put on a hard hold because I think with the way they decided to tell this story, it made them rethink everything else they're going to do because they would have to redevelop how they got there in some of the story.
I think at this point, they aren't too focused on that shit either, especially since things are getting delayed.
Yeah.
They might have, pre-production stuff still going on for some stuff, but they're still, I think, focused on Afterlife, since that's obviously going to be the next thing that's out and big in Ghostbusters, other than... I don't even know if they still have comics coming out during this right now. At least those ones or anything.
I was hoping they'd drop a prequel comic just to kind of, close the gap a little bit on a few things, but it's not necessary, I don't think.
I bet you will see at least a little bit of it when the movie comes out. At least some tie-ins or some other things. Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said, I think the animated series stuff, I would like to see just crossover shit with universes. I
think we're going to get a lot of stuff, so it's just going to be fun to see how it plays out and see how it turns out. And I'm just excited to see like a whole new generation of people get excited for this story.
Yeah.
I saw Ghostbusters at the drive-in last night, man, and like we went down in Nick's Ectomobile and like we didn't even have the roof rack on it yet, we're still finishing that up, and people lost their minds for it, man. Like people loved just seeing it. Like people, a few people kind of approach afterward and, we're talking about it. And it's people all ages, right? There's a lot of young people there. And there's like an older couple older people there that were like laughing like really loud. And like, you could tell they just truly love the movie, right? So it's just one of those things like people of all ages can love this story, right?
Yeah. It's truly a special movie.
That it is. They did not play the special intro at the beginning of it, and they didn't play the trailer to think of it, they actually only played regular commercials. They didn't play any movie trailers in front of it, unless we missed them, because we kind of got there right before showtime. But
yeah.
Interesting. I mean, luckily I watched that bootleg. But
yeah, I still don't know what I'm going to be doing for Bill and Ted 3 later this month. But I did see online that Screenland Armor's playing it, so you'll be able to see it there.
Yep, I will be going to that for sure.
Me, myself, I don't know. I may end up having to stream it. That would be an unfortunate case, because I would rather see that in a theater. But I will do what I must.
Yeah, but I bet the drive-in down there will play it, don't you think?
We'll see.
So, shit, man, you could get lucky. I mean, around when that's supposed to come out, you could possibly see Tenet and Bill and Ted 3 at a double feature at the drive-in.
That would be sick, because Tenet looks pretty fucking dope, too. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's pretty much what we got this week, so jump on our social media. You got the ad from Alec where he fucking sings like a goddamn karaoke god. And let us know what your top 5 cop movies are. Let us know if you want to join Project Mixtape and get in on that, where we can mail tapes around to each other and just have a little bit of joy in the world. We'll get some vintage soundtrack
goddamn
songs on
giveaway.
There. Yeah, we want to give this shit away, so don't make us give it all to one person.
Right? I mean, we don't have enough people right now. We need some more entries here. We need you to go and just make a stupid post about, hey, I used to watch fucking Back to the Future, or, I used to watch Jurassic Park. That's the only fucking VHS tape I had. I wore it out, and I had to fucking buy another one because I watched it so goddamn much. And then just tag 2 friends, tag us. That's all you have to do.
And win.
And you might get some sweet vintage VHS and other gifts in the mail.
Yeah, don't forget the other stuff. We're not going to tell you what the other stuff is.
Sweet little collectibles. I got some trading cards of a certain variety that are pretty cool still in package. They're from the mid-90s. Those are going to be going in there with it. I got some other surprises for you, so.
Absolutely. All right, kids. Well, take care, and we'll see you on the other side. Not really. We'll just see you next week. We're not going to get anything like that. We're not that fucking clever. Well, I mean, we're clever, but, I mean, we're just...
I feel like there's probably Ghostbusters podcasts have ended that way 400 times before.
Yeah.
See you on the other side, guys. All right.
Take care now. Bye-bye, then.
Oh, bye, Mark.
These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, the Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers. These are my dinner guests, Frog Brothers. Frog Brothers.
Shut this off. Shut these all off.